Guys, we're live. Boxing Gossip Podcast number 32. Every Wednesday night at 8:30 we go live. Thanks to everyone who's joined us. On the panel tonight, I've already got Iris, Tom, I've got Paul, I've got Jet. Hopefully Seri will be able to join us very, very soon. So we'll have a full set of the panel tonight. And there's a huge amount to discuss. Want to get into it fairly quickly tonight. We're going to start with looking at last week's boxing. We're going to try and keep that fairly brief, to be honest, because last week's boxing wasn't the biggest news stories out there. So we're going to quite quickly move on to some of the news in the sport. We're going to be talking about Josh Warrington, for example. And we're going to move fairly rapid pace through to next week's fights. We're going to be looking at Joshua Molina, Chisora v. Whyte, Burton, Bullone, Ortiz v. Allen, Scott Quigg, Caliafai. We'll go over and look at Parker Ruiz. We may even talk some Terence Crawford. So lots to discuss. Let's get straight into it without further ado. And I'm going to start by bringing in Jet. So Jet, first and foremost, mate, how are you getting on?
Yeah, not so bad. Yourself?
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good. Thanks for joining as ever. Jet, you're a big Denis Lebedev fan. Give us your take on that fight, mate.
Yeah, I mean, the fight itself was good. I watched, I saw the full sort of fight, but I kind of watched it in spots. So, every day I would watch a few rounds. I thought Gassiev won the fight pretty comfortably, to be honest. The sort of meaningful, hurtful shots were coming from Murat Gassiev. He looked a lot better than I thought he would. I thought he would kind of be just a sort of a puncher, but he looked really good under Abel Sanchez, and I thought he was a class above Denis Lebedev. Lebedev's obviously 37. I like him as a fighter, very sort of solid all round, but he, as I said last week, he's a bit small at the weight, so maybe Gassiev was a bit more rangy. He kind of got his shots off a bit quicker. And, the fight itself was a decent fight. It wasn't a bad fight. The undercard as well was quite a good fight as well. There was, the whole card wasn't too bad.
Good stuff.
Obviously, Lebedev keeps hold of his WBA, the IBF belt. So, Gassiev, and it was good to see a mutual respect between the two as well. Obviously, two hailing from Russia. And, they just both giving each other credit where credit was due, really.
Absolutely. Let's talk Billy Joe Saunders a bit, Jet. Not the best performance from Billy Joe this week. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough because, for the first few rounds, Akavov was kind of just putting it on him. And Billy Joe, he said, I think he 210 pounds or something like that. So, obviously he didn't look great at the weight. And, it's not a big occasion as well. It's in Paisley, I think Paisley Leisure Centre or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Man.
So, yeah, you're not going to get up for those sort of fights. And it's evident from the Saunders camp. Obviously, no Jimmy Tibbs, which was very, very surprising, actually. So, we have to wait and see with Billy Joe Saunders what's happening with Jimmy Tibbs and going down later in his career. But, certainly not a performance. And, he actually hit the nail on the head in his post-fight interview. And he goes, that was an embarrassing performance, which it was for his, standard. He's a world-class operator, but, he was made to look a bit ordinary in there at times. So, yeah, I'd like to see Billy Joe Saunders in a meaningful fight, hopefully quicker than 11 or 12 months. And, yeah, best of luck to him. He's a solid fighter and, one of the best UK sort of talents, but just needs to be active, I guess.
Absolutely. I think Billy Joe is one of those fighters who could benefit from the new BT Sports deal. Hopefully that deal is going to catapult him into regular main event status. And because of the number of shows Frank Warren has, it's they're going to want him to be active. Now, from my perspective, you've got inactivity, you've got blowing up massive weight outside of the ring, and you've got Jimmy Tibbs. Three things altogether contributing to why the performance was so poor. Perhaps also we need to add in a lack of motivation. Billy Joe's been in some big fights. This really was a lesser fight here. This was at Leisure Centre up in Scotland, away from his fans, like you said, Jet. So a lot of factors which possibly contributed. Tom, let me bring you in, mate. In your opinion, which of those factors is the most relevant as to why Billy Joe was so poor?
His discipline and his cutting weight makes a huge difference, and even his body shape looks different. Like before I saw the fight, I could see even in one of these. I think it was Jesus Christ, what was that?
Right, quite literally, I have a motorcycle gang, Sons of Anarchy-esque, who have just decided to take up residence outside my my flat, but they've disappeared now. So, Tom, if you want to start again, that would be
yeah. Jesus Christ, I thought the alien invasion was starting. I think before I saw an interview with him on IFL or something, and like even his body shape seems different. Like he used to be kind of skinny, but he looked like he had put on muscle as well as had to lose fat. But his speed was gone, his timing was gone, his footwork was gone. He was rubbish. That was about as poor as like Billy Joe Saunders. All the good things about his game are nearly gone. So it just terrible performance. Like if he doesn't look after himself, he could be permanently gone. You know, I'm like if they fought Eubank next time. Look, until we see Saunders put a good performance in, I just think I'm not going to rate him high at all. He looked gone.
Yeah,
it's like Ricky Hatton. You just can't do that to yourself. It's like Ricky Hatton. You just do it too many times. That's the end of you. And I think it's the same, sadly, we'll say about Tyson Fury now, the size of him. We'll never see the same Tyson Fury in the ring again.
He looked grotesque. I think it matters less. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but I think it matters less as a heavyweight. I think to be 11.5 stone and to be blowing up to that grotesque an arrangement, that's when you start talking about cutting 30% body weight or something of that nature. And when you're having to cut down, it's really unpleasant. I mean, Tyson Fury may have to lose the same amount of weight, but what he probably won't have to do is dehydrate. Whereas that's what Billy Joe's doing. But I agree. In terms of that weight, Tom, do you think that's a general discipline issue? Do you think that's a motivation issue because of how small the fight is? Do you think it's an inactivity issue, or do you think it's all of the three?
Probably all the three. I think some lads don't live the life and they need to be in fighting every 3 months, 4 months. Billy Joe, you can't go a year out. He probably just did the same thing that he normally does between fights, except normally it's 3 or 4 weeks of acting the bollocks. Except now he had 52 weeks of acting the bollocks.
Definitely.
Any Big Macs you can have.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, mate. Totally agree. Anything else you want to add on last week's fights, Tom? Anything on Lebedev, Gassiev, or any of the other accidents that took place?
Just a shout out to your man Adongo, who knocked your man Trojanowski out with his nearly the first punch thrown in the fight. That was a hell of a knockout. His head did that weird snap that Pacquiao did when he knocked Hatton unconscious. So it was a hell of a shot. Probably knockout of the year so far.
I'll have to check that out, mate. I haven't actually seen that yet, so I'll look that up when we're finished for the night. Cool. Okay.
The fight.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Tom. The fight literally only takes about 35 seconds. The entire fight.
Okay.
It's like literally the first punch.
Interesting. Yeah, there's been a few of those recently. Okay, interesting. Let me bring in Paul. We'll rattle through last week's fights. Paul, BJS. Anything really from your side to look at in terms of Billy Joe Saunders? I presume as disappointed as the rest of us.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really add much more. He did look awful. What a fucking venue, though. I mean, that venue. I mean, it looked like there was about 8 rows. Like it looked like the 8th row would be the back of the venue. It was awful. I mean, that's a world title fight. I was watching the Pulev versus Samuel Peter fight, and that fight was on in a place of about 50 times the size. Do you know what I mean? It's just world title fight. It was disappointing. It was certainly disappointing from Billy Joe. He only just won the fight for me. I mean, I didn't score it, but your man took a few rounds off him for sure, and he didn't look good at all. He didn't look good, but I am a fan of Billy Joe. I think he's immensely skilled. He didn't show much of it this weekend, but yeah, I think coming down from the size. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen the photos of him a few months back, and he was huge. I mean, he wouldn't have done very well, but he could have probably made heavyweight at that point, or certainly cruiserweight. So yeah, it's disappointing from him, to be honest. Gassiev, yeah, I thought he won the fight. I didn't think it was. I thought it was quite a close fight, actually. I didn't think he dominated the fight. I have to give some props to myself for picking him to win there, but
okay.
Gloat, Paul, gloat.
Yeah. I kind of have to. I'm doing quite well lately. You lot should all just, place your bets based on what I say. I think you'd do all right.
Only BG can be a winner here. Cleverly Braymont, the Burton.
Yes.
I had money on Gassiev. And then I laid off the bet. And then in the middle, I was looking at Twitter and people voting on what the rounds were. And people were saying that your man was winning the bet. And I put a bit of money back on Lebedev, and then he fucking lost. So it's the last time I'm looking at other feckers.
You know what they say, Tom? Bad things happen to bad people, mate.
Oh.
Yeah, I think Lebedev was winning some of the earlier rounds, to be fair. So that's probably why that was. I didn't score the fight, but I thought it was quite close. But yeah, I thought Gassiev did enough to win it. Yeah, that was about it last week, wasn't it? Did anyone watch the Kubrat Pulev Samuel Peter?
Oh mate, I watched that. That was not good to watch, was it?
God, it was awful. It was fucking awful. And like, I don't know. Like, did anybody think? Even like Pulev, who won every round, I think. Does he look shot to anyone? I think he looks shot. I do.
Pulev, I must admit, Pulev actually really impressed me against Chisora. I actually think he looks pretty good of late, if I'm honest. His style has never been the most dynamic or athletic, but no, I think he's a good technician. I still think he's got a lot to offer at that sort of top 10 level.
Tom, what have you been smoking? We spoke about that fight right afterwards, me and you, and we both said that Pulev looked like he was totally shot.
I might have meant Chisora looked like he was totally shot, but I actually thought Pulev dealt with Chisora better than I actually picked Chisora to win that fight, mate. I thought Pulev dealt with him a lot better than I anticipated he would.
He dealt with him quite halfway decent, but I thought they both looked awful, and I thought it was an awful fight to watch. But
it's a pity that Pulev didn't dislocate his elbow.
Yeah, like Peter.
No, I'm joking. Like cleverly, Tom was picking him. You see.
Well, all I'm saying, Boxing Gossip Awards, Boxing Gossip knockout of the nominees are Cleverly versus Bramer, I think. But we'll save that for 2 or 3 podcast time. But yeah, I'll move it on. Paul, we'll stick with you if I may. Let me just say firstly, before I do actually, Billy Joe Saunders is one of my favourite fighters. I think at his best, he is a fantastic fighter to watch, and I think he operates at a skill level unlike many other British fighters. So I hope for the best. I hope it's not over. But yeah, that was not a good performance. I think it's clear as day what's gone wrong. So hopefully that's obvious to all involved and all the people around him, and it can be rectified. But yeah, we'll move it on. And Paul, one of the things I wanted to discuss was Josh Warrington. Last week, we discussed Tyrone Nurse joining BT Sports. Now, I have to be a little bit careful because as I understand it, at this stage, there has been no deal announced between Warrington and BT Sports. But one would presume that Warrington's departure from Matchroom would have to be linked to other opportunities becoming available. You know, Eddie Hearn's been careful to present this as he decided not to offer Josh Warrington an extension. It's unclear to me whether he came to that decision because Warrington had so many other good offers on the table that he was demanding more money or something of that nature. But Paul, how big a loss is this for Matchroom from your perspective?
I don't think it's a huge loss. I don't think it's a huge. I mean,
do you not think this? I mean, whilst Warrington is not an elite level fighter, I thought Eddie Hearn was doing some nice business in Leeds. I mean, he was selling a lot of money, selling a lot of tickets, and he was selling a lot of beer off the back of Josh Warrington.
I think what's more worrying is that it might be a sign of things to come, and it could be a small part of the greater overall picture that obviously Frank Warren is going to be looking to try and sort of like steal away some of the fighters, try and build that huge commitment that he's made to however many shows it is. I can't remember now. I don't think Josh Warrington in himself. I don't think he's not a huge name. He's not a huge ticket seller. I know he does quite well up in Leeds. He's got quite a following in Leeds, very popular up there and whatnot. But I don't think it's a huge loss by any means. But yeah, it's a sign of what it could represent overall is the worrying thing from the Matchroom perspective, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I guess my concern for Matchroom is Warrington was a huge success story for them. You know, Warrington was a guy they took from the dregs and turned into a guy selling out arenas and headlining shows. And the fact that someone like him is considering leaving, for me, suggests that others will be quite vulnerable. Because I think Matchroom have actually done a very, very good job with Warrington. My other concern is if he were to sign with Frank Warren and Box Mason and BT Sports, there is the potential for that signing to be somewhat embarrassing if the Warrens and that side are unable to make him as big a success as Hearn is, because Hearn was selling out that Leeds arena and having the place rocking and rolling. And if Warren promotes shows with Warrington up there and there are blocks and blocks of empty seats, which there may be because Hearn has done a fantastic job, there's the potential for actually to backfire on Frank Warren, I think. Do you have any instinct on that, Paul?
Well, I mean, I just think in recent years, Frank Warren hasn't shown the best. I don't know. He hasn't done too well with Billy Joe Saunders. I mean, like that show at the weekend was just for a world champion and a guy that is so outspoken as Billy Joe is and can sell a fight like he does. I just think Frank Warren's done a poor job with him, to be honest. And I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to predict how things are going to go going forward. But yeah, I mean, I can see people trying to go over there now, but it's still very. I mean, and I've said this before, if I was an up and coming fighter, I would be definitely trying to go towards Matchroom. They just seem to do better overall. They just seem to put better shows on. They seem to everything just seems more polished. I mean, can you imagine any of the? Can you imagine like any of the other Matchroom champions fighting in a place like they fought at the weekend, like a little leisure centre like that?
It wouldn't happen.
A world champion, it just wouldn't happen.
No.
If you looked at that fight, you'd think it was. You wouldn't even think it was a British title fight. To look at the arena and the production of it and everything, you'd think it was just a little nothing. Fight, a world title fight that was. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it was. You're spot on, Paul. It was a bit embarrassing, and I know that was when it was booked. There wasn't the suggestion that Billy Joe would be on the card. He was added late, obviously. So I guess that's something to do with it. But yeah, if you were a young Olympian looking at turning pro and you were looking at that as the most recent event, it wouldn't inspire too much confidence. So I completely agree. Yeah. Okay. Jet, let me bring you in, mate. What do you think is going to happen with Warrington? Do you think that how do you think he's going to be managed, and what direction will they take him in, and how big a loss is this?
Yeah, I think it's a sizable loss. I mean, in terms of the sort of Leeds market, I know Eddie Hearn in his interview, I was actually quite interested in the interview, so I kind of skipped towards the Warrington bit because I was surprised as to the reasons why he actually left. And he said the last Leeds bill didn't actually do too well against Patrick Hyland. Obviously, Josh Warrington and his team kind of wanted a few more tune-up fights before the Lee Selby fight. So, I mean, obviously his team and Eddie Hearn were having some sort of disagreement, and henceforth they've obviously cut ties and decided not to offer a contract, or however you want to word it, which is fine. But, obviously he said Frank Warren is in the running to sign Josh Warrington. So, that's a massive possibility. And I think what you said is probably spot on. If Eddie Hearn, if Frank Warren can't do as good a job as Eddie Hearn has done, if they headline in Leeds with Warrington, they, they've kind of got to look at themselves and, and reevaluate, I guess. I mean, Josh Warrington was selling out arenas left, right, and centre at the First Direct Arena in Leeds. So, it's a sizable loss in terms of the Leeds market, in terms of an area. But in terms of the grand scheme of things, I don't think, it does too much to Eddie Hearn in a negative way. I mean, if anything, he's lost out on a decent fight that he could probably got on Sky Sports against Selby. But, that's about it, really.
Definitely. Okay. No, that makes sense. Tom, let me bring you in on Josh Warrington, mate. What have you got to add on that?
I'm fucking delighted to see the really smug look from Eddie Hearn's face starting to disintegrate a bit. Like, people, like, lads, Eddie Hearn is a good promoter, but so much of his power is based on his monopoly. And now look what's happening when his monopoly is falling. That he's making a lot of these excuses that he would have laughed at a while ago. He's saying now that, people should be loyal. That's a good one. When somebody's screwed when they start talking about loyalty. Or the other one we was talking to about when he's taking on, rising prospects, stars, the what do you call it, the GB team lads, and saying, don't go for just the ones that offer the most money. This basically means that he's getting outbid in the market. And that probably means that somebody like BT, when they go in there, they nearly actually caused Sky Sports to fall apart because they nearly totally dominated the Premiership bids one of the years. So, like, these guys, when they come in, they're interested in getting everybody in England, basically getting their broadband from them. And this sports channel is a loss leader for them. And so they're willing to pump money, and they've got billions of pounds to pump in. So if they want to take young boxing and they want to do it, they can do it right. And they can really probably outpay for it. So let's see what's going to happen. Like Warrington there, like this stuff about, well, I think Eddie has done a very good job with him. But let's see, when you've got a channel with more people being able to view it, and versus, say, 15 million, that's just, it's a bigger reach. And even if Frank is only 2/3 the promoter that Eddie Hearn is, he'll still probably do better than him. The other thing I'd say as well is that people make out that it's Eddie Hearn that has sold all them tickets. Let's get this straight. Usually it's the boxer that sells the tickets. Usually it's the boxer's personality. It's the boxer putting in the hard work, going to the football matches, letting on that he's a big hardcore Leeds fan and all that kind of stuff. Ricky Hatton did the same thing. Usually it's the self-promoters like Tyson Derek Chisora and these guys that get paid the big bucks. So look, I think it's good for competition, and I reckon we'll see. I reckon that Warrington is going over to BT because being guaranteed maybe very good money to fight Selby, and Selby is nearly a free agent as well, I think.
Yeah.
So they'll probably go to BT. So that's probably what's going to happen, you know. And to be honest with you, like, I think if I was a young boxer coming through, I would think that Frank Warren is a better, maybe not a better promoter, but I think he's a better developer of talent. I think that's kind of undeniable. Like, I heard somebody say in the Matchroom in 30 years of boxing, they've only brought 2 world champions from the bottom up. How many has Frank done? He's probably done 20. You know what I mean? In the same period of time. The other thing I'd say is that, I'd say that if I was really going to pick anybody, I'd nearly go for Barry McGuigan. I know I'm Irish and he's Irish and all that kind of crap, but I think Barry McGuigan has done very good with Frampton, and I'd say he'll do a very good one with Josh Taylor. But the thing is with these things, there are ebbs and flows. There was a few years there where Eddie was ruling the roost, the monopoly, and other people weren't doing so well. But these things, it swings and roundabouts. This is the way I look about it.
Definitely. No, there does seem to be a bit of a roller coaster, if you like, in terms of people going back and forth. So I think swings and roundabouts is a fair way of describing it. Tom, let me ask you, another bit of news broken today. George Groves to fight for the WBA title at the super middleweight against Fedor Chudinov. For me, that's a competitive fight, actually. I'm sure Groves will be a favourite on that. I almost view that as a 50-50 matchup. One I'd actually quite look forward to. What's your take on it?
I think it's a decent scrap. I wonder where it's going to be on. I think your man
Chudinov came over before to fight Frank Bullone, so I imagine George Groves and his team will be able to get him over.
That was a different Chudinov.
No, it's the same one, mate.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, same one.
Oh, okay, all right.
The other one.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I was thinking of Eubank. Sorry. Yeah. Well, it depends. Yeah, I suppose if the money's in England, he'll come for the money. But he got robbed by Sturm. He'll probably come over and maybe get robbed again. But George Groves, I'm not convinced with. He probably has a good chance against Chudinov, but it's pretty 50-50-ish. It's a wonder, he'll probably get robbed in the cards again if that's the thing. But I heard something today on a Bayloric one that apparently after George Groves fought Froch the first time, that Groves had to go to hospital for concussion. Has anybody ever knew that before? It's the first I ever heard of it.
No, I haven't heard that, I'll be honest.
Well, I haven't heard
I didn't hear that. So
what are you saying, that he might, he's got a lot of miles on the clock, Groves, for a relatively young guy?
Yeah, well, it was the one with the rematch where Froch, it was the first fight where Froch, everybody was complaining, me as well, but that Groves had actually a concussion and had to go and spend some time in hospital, and that was hushed up. So, that might explain why Groves is a bit more shot than we think.
Yeah, no, interesting. For me, this is a legitimate 50-50 fight. Chudinov's got an excellent work rate. He looks very, very tough. He's a durable guy. He's not the biggest puncher in the world, but he's someone who brings the pressure. Groves is definitely the prettier boxer, but for me, this is a fight that really could go either way. You've got to say it is Groves' best chance of winning that elusive world title. And hopefully it will set up a massive unification fight if he were to win with either a Callum Smith or a James DeGale of someone of that nature. What's your take on that matchup? How competitive do you see it?
Yeah, I also think it's a tight fight. It's not a gimme fight for George Groves. I mean, obviously, Irish Tom obviously brought up that he was robbed in Germany in the second fight against Sturm. So hopefully he doesn't get robbed and he gets a fair shake on the scorecards. He dismantled Frank Bullone pretty easily. And I think Jose Burton's going to do the same. But, that's just save that one for later. But, Chudinov is a pretty sort of, as you said, he'll bring the pressure. But in terms of, he's not going to come forward and walk onto shots. I think he's a bit more educated. He'll apply educated pressure, so to speak. And I think that may be his undoing against someone like George Groves. I mean, George Groves doesn't like it when kind of the pressure gets put on him. Even Gutknecht put in put a bit of pressure on him sometimes on the ropes, and George Groves didn't seem to like it at times. So, I don't think Chudinov will do that, so to speak, and that may be his undoing in the fight. I think George Groves will win the fight, by close scorecard, maybe 7-5, 8-4, something like that. But this is his best chance of winning a world title. If you look at the other champions out there, I mean, obviously he's lost to Badou Jack. He's beaten James DeGale, but James DeGale has come on leaps and bounds since he's obviously beaten him. And Callum Smith is mandated to face the winner of the James DeGale Badou Jack match. And this is the other belt that's free. And then Gilberto Ramirez. Will Sauerland brothers stick him in with Gilberto Ramirez? Tough one. I don't think so. So I mean, realistically, it's his best chance, and a chance that I could see him taking. But Chudinov is there to upset the apple cart, so to speak.
Absolutely. Paul, how do you see this one going, mate?
I'm not so sure it's a 50-50 fight. I think it's a close fight. I think it's probably more like a 55-45 in favour of Groves, and I don't like Groves. It's not definitely not because I'm a fan of Groves that I'm saying it. I've kind of had I've not liked Groves since he threw his trainer under the bus after that Badou Jack fight. He just like fucking so distasteful what he did there. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody do anything like that. Where they just like blatantly put it all on the trainer. It's like it was my trainer's fault. Yes, it's definitely not a case of me liking him or anything. I just think he's got a bit more to offer. The way if Groves gets that jab going and just boxes and moves, I think I'd pick him to win. But it's a decent fight. But I do agree with what you said, Tom, about it. It's probably his best. The best opportunity he's going to get. I think of him as being older than he is. I always think of George Groves as like, I don't know why. I don't know if it's that kind of like hairdo or what. It's like I always think of him as a 35-year-old guy. He's not. But he has had a few wars, hasn't he? And it's probably is his best. I think if he were to win it, I think the DeGale fight, the rematch with DeGale would be probably the best way to go.
Paul,
I think.
Paul, what do you think about though if your man Chudinov starts, just fights at a very high tempo all night, which he can?
Yeah, that's got a tactic.
Yeah, Groves don't like that. Groves don't like to have it put on him, does he? As Jet said, so that could be a different story. But I just think if Groves is able to get that jab going, I mean, a good jab is the best antidote for a pressure fighter, isn't it? And Groves on his day has got one of the best jabs you'll see, to be fair.
But he's not just a pressure fighter, though. Like, he can fight. He fought half of that fight against Sturm on the back foot. And if you ask me, he outboxed him on the back foot. So I think he's got a back foot game as well.
Yeah, I thought he outboxed Sturm as well.
I don't think he'll outbox Groves on the back foot. I think there's going to be a big size difference in this fight. Chudinov is a tiny super middleweight. Sturm was a middleweight, but Groves is a massive guy with big reach, big range, great jab, knows how to move. For me, Chudinov's got to get in close and bring the pace from an early stage.
But when did George Groves ever fight a guy who was able to move on the back foot?
Well, I hear what you mean. I guess you'd have to say James DeGale, although I appreciate that was a very, very different fight and now quite a historic fight. But if I'm honest, I think they're different levels in terms of long-range boxing skill. I think the way the fight's going to be interesting is Groves fighting long, Chudinov bringing the pace. That's where, for me, this is a competitive fight.
I just think Groves is a bit too big for Chudinov, and I think with the skills he's got, with his ability to fight on the back foot and the jab, I just think I'd have to sway firmly in his favour. But it is still a close fight, and he could lose it just as easily, you know.
But I just think that we're like saying that you know that the guy's a come forward guy, and I think he's the opposite. I think he's got. I'm not saying he's a world beater or anything. Like I think he's good on the back foot, and he's good going forward. He's got a better engine than Groves. Now he may be smaller and all that, but you know, I'm not picking him either. I'm just saying that like Groves is an accident waiting to happen. Just look at his, you know, he's terrified of getting hit. George Groves, simple as. He hasn't got hit. He got, you know, even at the end of that fight when Martin Murray took a shellacking and he hit him a couple of times, Groves still nearly looked like he was going to fold. You know, so like this, I think Chudinov is the best fighter he has fought by a mile since he lost to Froch. You know, and you know, I think it's a close fight. I think if
Chudinov's better than Paddy Jack.
Oh, sorry, I forgot about Paddy Jack. Yeah. Oh well, Jesus, yeah. Well, like I think he's about the same as Paddy Jack. I don't think Paddy Jack's up to much at all.
Bloody hell, I'd pick Paddy Jack over Chudinov every day of the week and twice on a Sunday, mate.
But who's Paddy Jack beat?
Durrell.
Yeah, the Shitterell.
Yeah, the Shitterell. It's better than Felix Sturm at this stage for me, mate. Or, you know, better than Frank Bullone.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? I think they're
waiting to happen, I'll tell you that.
I think they're of a similar standard. You see, I just think they're of a much of a muchness. I think all these guys are, you know, it's the worst division in boxing. How come we're spending so much time over George Groves?
I was just thinking that.
On that note, we need to keep a quick pace. If there ever is a time to move it on, that's it. Jet, I'll bring you back in, mate. Dillian Whyte versus Derek Chisora. By now, everyone has seen what happened today. Your take on the press conference, Jet?
Wait, let me throw a table first. No, I'm joking. It's funny, isn't it? I mean,
Good one, Jet. Good one.
Sorry?
Good one.
I mean, it's weird, isn't it? Derek Chisora he's a weird guy. I'm telling you, he's an absolute nutter. Dillian Whyte, you know, we know he can be erratic and that sort of stuff, but Derek Chisora has definitely brought the weird to this fight, or to the build-up. I mean, you know, flipping a table at the press conference, and the gloves are off. Obviously, he swilled Dillian Whyte. So I mean, you know, it's just weird. I mean, I've always said I think Dillian Whyte's going to win the fight. I don't think Derek Chisora is you know, has got what it takes anymore at this sort of level, even to beat, you know, Dillian Whyte. Not that I think Dillian Whyte's great, and not that I think Derek Chisora is absolutely horrendously bad. I do think he's shot to pieces, but you know, at this sort of level, I think he can compete. It's just, you know, I think Dillian Whyte has a bit of youth, bit of upside. I think, obviously, you know, he's had a few fights and he's been learning in those fights. He's been boxing from range. And I think, you know, as you said earlier in the show, that the Kubrat Pulev fight was absolutely horrendous for Derek Chisora. He looked terrible. And I think we both picked him. I actually picked Derek Chisora to win as well. So, you know, that wasn't the best pick in hindsight. I mean, you know, I think Dillian Whyte wins, but, you know, where he kind of goes from there. I know he said earlier in the week that he could have another fight after the Derek Chisora fight and get a world title fight against Deontay Wilder, because he'll be quite high up in the WBC rankings. But, you know, Dillian Whyte needs to stay away from a world title fight at this moment in time. You know, the guy's at a level now. Obviously, he's lost to Joshua. Deontay Wilder's, you know, he hasn't fought yet, so he needs a few fights to come back anyway. There's obviously Klitschko's coming back soon. You know, Parker Ruiz. That would probably be his best sort of option for a world title fight, Parker Ruiz, or if he wants a big money fight, go for the Joshua rematch. But, you know, realistically, does Dillian Whyte match up well to any of those guys? You know, I don't think so, depending on if Ruiz wins, but I can't see that happening. I think Parker wins that fight. So, yeah, it's hard to see where either of these guys go, regardless of, you know, whether they win or lose. The loser has a lot of climbing to do, let's put it that way. The winner, you know, he might move up marginally in the rankings, but, you know, Kubrat Pulev, European champion, can he be Kubrat Pulev, one of these guys? I can't see it at the moment.
Do you think that the table incident, do you think it was fake beef designed to sell a fight? I must admit, I'll probably get told off by Irish Tom in a minute, but I actually legit believe there is some major beef here. I've also just seen on Facebook the footage of the gloves are off, the bit that Sky didn't show. I was able to see what actually happened there, and it did look pretty vicious, to be honest. I believe the hype is real here. What about you, Jet?
I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, as I said, Derek Chisora, we know he's a bit of a nutter, and, you know, obviously he's glassed a few people and, you know, kissed a few people in their press conferences and whatnot. But this one, I don't think they like each other. But maybe some of the stuff have been blown out of proportion. I think, you know, maybe media exaggeration has played a role in it. But, you know, certainly not all of it. I think some of the beef, well, the beef is real, and some of the stuff is definitely, you know, is definitely there for everyone to see. I mean, it is real, but a few stuff here and there. Maybe the gloves are off. I know the gloves are off isn't a sort of, you know, I wouldn't say it's hard. I don't know the correct phrase, but it's not a well managed sort of show, if you understand what I mean. It's not, you know, the filming is exactly what it portrays. I mean, there are discrepancies that are taken away and obviously not shown, or, you know, taken away for purposes of PG content and whatnot. But, you know, some of it's real. Whether every single bit of it is real, I don't think so.
Absolutely. Okay. No, that makes sense. Somewhere in the middle then, Jet.
Yeah.
Let's bring Iris back in. Whyte, Chisora, Tablegate, the press conference. Iris, how impressed were you?
I thought it was great crack. But the thing is, whether it's true or not, like, let's be honest here, if Derek Whyte worked in an old folks' home, he'd end up smashing the head out of some biddies and breaking their spines in some beef that would happen. You know, it's just predictable, and maybe they use it to get get themselves, you know, hyped for the fight and all that. But, you know, do you think there'll still be a beef?
Tom, you said Derek Whyte. Have you just invented a hybrid of the two? Which did you mean?
You better believe it. You better believe it. They're fat and plodding on the back foot. But like, you know, do you think in 5 years' time they'll still have a beef? No, it's just around the fight. It's just one of these things. You know, we knew before the fight happened there'd be beef. You know, it's just. But I tell you what, it's a good press conference, and you know, I like these. I like press conferences with scraps. I can't deny it, but it still doesn't make me think this is going to be a good fight. You know, Derek had the same stuff going on before the Pulev fight. People were thinking he's back. He went in and he gave a poor performance. Now, do I think Derek or Dylan has the capability to knock out Derek? No. The only man who properly stopped him was like a two men, Tyson Fury and David Haye, and he is neither of them. You know, if Dave Allen can go 10 or 12 rounds, fucking Derek Chisora can do 10 or 12 rounds. You better believe it. Do you think Derek's going to win? No. You can get 2.7 on Del Boy or on Derek on Dillian by points.
Tom, I was going to say
that's very good value.
15-8 with 365.
Yeah, I put money on last night. I've got a lot of money on different bets this week. There's a lot of good value fights out there this week if you want to get into them.
I'll just quickly read out my bets that I've picked out this week. I've written them down here, so let me just pull them up. Luis Ortiz by decision, 5-2. I think that's a decent bet when you consider it's only an 8-rounder. Dillian Whyte by decision, 15-8. The other one that I'd look at as well, and this is one that I'd strongly recommend people looking into on the day, would be Conor Benn to win on points. Conor Benn is in against a guy who's 1-4, but the guy he's in against is a welterweight, and the guy he's in against has only been stopped once. Now, Conor Benn doesn't appear to have the most power. Now, I actually met Conor Benn last week and had a good chat with him, and the guy is tiny, like absolutely tiny guy. To me, he didn't even look like a lightweight. He looked like a super featherweight. What they're doing, putting him in at welterweight, I really don't know. I think it's very, very poor route for him to go down. And even at this level, when you're fighting guys who are 1-4, if you're a super featherweight or a lightweight, that is going to make a big difference to your KO percentage. So I'm not saying Ben won't win by stoppages, but you know, in these short fights that only go 4 rounds or 6 rounds, I think a points win is possible and very likely. And last time Conor Benn fought, I was able to get 9-2 on him to win by points, and that's exactly what happened. So that's another one that I'd have a look out for on the day of the fight, guys. But yeah, Tom, what's your take on those bets, mate?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, I like them. Let me. I have a few more here for you. Concepcion versus Yafai. Concepcion by points 6.4. So that's like 11-2.
11-2.
Now, whether you get the result or not, I don't know, but you'll be able to lay that off after about 5 rounds at evens. So I think that's a great bet. You got AJ Molina over 4.5 rounds, 7-5.
That's a good bet.
That's, I think, worth money. I don't think AJ will want to knock him out too quick because I think it'll sour people. I think they'll tag him along for a while. And the best bet of the week, Cuellar versus Mares, 4-6 for Cuellar. That's the best bet of the week. That's the banker.
Okay, interesting. We're going to go down the card for next week's fights in a bit, so we can discuss those fights in more detail. Definitely. I'm just trying to think, Paul. Have I come to you on Chisora, Whyte, and that press conference yet, mate?
No.
Let me bring you in on that one, mate.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I also love it. I love the beef. I love I love any press conference where someone gets glassed or a table thrown at them. I kind of like I was trying to figure it out today. Is this all manufactured? Is it real? And this is the conclusion I came to, that either Derek Chisora is just great at manufacturing this stuff and selling a fight, or he's not quite right in the head. You know, like genuinely not quite right in the head. Because if you watch that press conference, all Dillian Whyte was saying was, what was it? You'll see what's going to happen. And like that's just basic fucking fighting talk. After all, it is. In fairness,
no, Paul, he didn't. He said at one stage, he said, "You're lucky that I have people around me who talk to me in a certain way. You're lucky that," you know, he was saying that he would have.
Yeah. He did say that, but there's quite a big leap from there to "you've threatened my life."
I think he was trying to say he would get him after. He kept on saying, "I'll get you after the fight, no matter what." You know, I think they're kind of.
He says every fight, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean,
he says that he.
To be honest, to be honest though, he did it at the one of the other press conferences as well, where they were trying to drum up. I think it was before the fight was signed. Was it Joshua Brazil? Was it one of those press conferences where they both turned up and it nearly went off or whatever? He was saying it from then. Like, oh, if you want to take it on road, we'll take it on road and we'll have it in the car park and whatnot. That's one thing, but that's still not, for me, that's still not threatening the man's life. That's saying, I want to have it with you after the fight, or I want to have it with you where there's no rules or whatever. I think that's a difference from actually saying, I am going to actually kill you. I think it's a big leap.
Yeah, because that's what Derek said to David. Hey, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to have you shot.
Yeah, and apparently Del Boy was sending Dillian Whyte pictures of a shotgun or something and saying, "This is what I've got for you" or something. So it's kind of a bit rich of him saying, "You can't threaten my life." But yeah, it is pretty entertaining. And like I said a couple of weeks ago, I said it the build up is going to be better than the actual fight, and I still stand by that. I think it's going to be a shit fight. I don't know if anybody heard the Dillian Whyte interview where he was saying what happened and that gloves are off. He said he at one point he said when they were on the floor, Del Boy was trying to bite him on the nipple, and he says, "Del Boy, men don't do that to each other." It was like fucking hell. So apparently, Del Boy actually bit him during that gloves are off thing when they.
Yeah, I've seen the footage, Paul. It does certainly appear that was the case. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Del Boy also said that the when he threw the water, it made the floor slippery, and that's what made everyone fall over. And he actually said in the interview today as well, "Yeah, I bit him." So, like, you know, yeah, I mean, anybody that thinks that's fake beef is like, you know, when you actually add all this up, it's kind of like it's real to a degree for sure, isn't it? As for the fight, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I said I thought Del Boy would win this fight. I just don't rate Dillian Whyte. I'm going to stick with my guns. I think I'm going to pick Chisora, probably on points. But it's going to be a close fight, and mark my words, it's going to be a fucking snoozer.
You think Chisora to win on points? Do you?
Yeah, I'm going to pick Chisora to win. I think he's got a little bit too much for Dillian Whyte. I think he's got a bit too much in experience. I don't think Dillian Whyte will like it when Del Boy's up close to him. I don't think Dillian Whyte likes it being put on him like that, you know.
Interesting.
Well, what do you think? Like, but the politics to me is all the wrong way. The politics is all saying Dillian, line him up for a rematch with AJ, and he's also Eddie's fighter. And your man, Chisora is not his fighter. So to me, it's just all, like, to me, it's quite a close fight, but the politics is going totally towards Dillian, and I don't think he can knock him out.
Yeah,
so
the politics
2.7.
Yeah, the politics does definitely go towards Dillian, but depends whether Eddie the envelope's on standby. I think I don't think he's just going to win it. I don't think he's got enough.
What do you reckon, lads?
Yeah, well, I would.
Is Eddie the envelope on standby?
I think Whyte will win on points, and I'm actually not having any conspiracy theories here. I actually think that Whyte will win on points quite comfortably. I think Whyte is far fresher, has far less miles on the clock, and even a peak Derek Chisora could never box. You know, Dillian Whyte in his recent fights has adopted that boxer style, that jabber style, and you know, that is literally the perfect way of picking up rounds against Chisora. I mean, every time anyone's established a jab against Derek Chisora, they've been able to pick up rounds against him. So I'm picking Dillian Whyte to beat Derek Chisora on points. I know Tom is. Obviously, Paul's going with Chisora on points. Jet, who are you siding with, mate?
Dillian Whyte on points.
And what's the logic behind that, mate?
Chisora is durable, you know, he'll take the sort of shots. Dillian Whyte's not a knockout artist, and I think, you know, it will go the distance. And yeah, I just don't think he's going to KO. I don't think Dillian Whyte's going to KO Chisora, and I don't think Chisora is going to KO Dillian Whyte, or he's going to cause him too much trouble, especially if we go off the last sort of fight against Pulev. So I think, yeah, Dillian Whyte should win, sort of comfortable, sort of close but comfortable decision, I think, if the fight goes according to the script. But, you know, I hope the fight is good, but, you know, the build-up has probably been better than the actual fight itself, I reckon.
Paul's got a little bit of a habit sometimes of the whole panel picking.
He picks against the grain, doesn't he?
Paul going against the grain, yeah. So let's.
How did that work out for him for Kovalev?
Oh,
yeah. Well, that was a real terrible pick from Paul there. Terrible.
Not as bad as Glowacki.
If the judging had been fair, if we go on what actually happened in the ring, it went quite well for me. But there you go.
Well, and what about Postol? Don't forget that one, lads. Don't forget some of these ones.
Oh, yeah, it's all coming back now. I'm trying to think when the last time I picked against all of you was. That. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was Nathan Cleverly, wasn't it?
And Waddy Camacho.
And Waddy
Camacho.
Yeah,
that was an awful.
Let's not forget poor Al Waddy.
Yeah, I actually picked Chamberlain for that fight. Well, yeah.
Technicalities, Tom. Technicalities.
Waddy as well.
Technicalities. Yeah. Let's go to the main event. It's actually a main event that's flown under the radar. In fact, it's almost bizarre that we're an hour into the podcast and we haven't even mentioned it. To be honest, it's not one that really seems to have generated much public interest, but it is the main event. It is a big fight, and of course, I'm referring to Anthony Joshua versus Molina. So what I'll do is I'll go around the panel. Each of us can, I don't know, do 3 or 4 minutes, brief overview of how we think the fight's going to go down, and then I'll do another whip round with predictions. So Tom, let's start with yourself, if that's all right, mate.
How do I think the fight is going to play out?
Yeah, how do you see it going?
Yeah, it's a strange one. I don't know. I'm kind of stuck between two minds on this fight. I don't know enough about Molina to know whether he can box. Does he know? Can he box?
Not really.
So is he just going to stand in front of him?
You have to guess he's going to lunge in. Yeah.
But do you think, maybe he'll try and copy what Brazil did? Because Brazil wasn't really a boxer. But Brazil kept on moving and maintaining distance.
I think the distance
every time
clear is that Molina's going to be a substantially smaller man.
He's still not a lot smaller than AJ. He's still about 6'4", 6'5", isn't he?
I would guess about 6'4", but I don't think he's going to have that reach and range that Brazil did.
Yeah, the thing is, I think he's got a good chin because he took a lot of shellacking from Wilder, and so I think he's able to take a punch. Now I do know he got knocked out by Ariola, but he was nearly knocking Ariola out at the time when he got caught. So I don't know. I kind of expect him to try and evade for a while, and to try and maybe get to the ropes and maybe. I don't know if he'd go to the ropes, but to try and punch with Joshua. I think that'll be the plan, is to wait till Joshua is throwing and try and punch with him and hope to land and stagger him back. I don't know. It's a weird one. It's not an intriguing fight, really, to be honest with you. It's just a matter of how does he get beaten, and maybe a 5% chance of knocking him out. What are you going to do? It's amazing. I bet you if we look, what's AJ going to have to bring to the press conference to try and get more views than Dillian versus Derek?
Oh,
he'd have to turn up.
Yeah.
The
problem is this fight. It's not competitive. Neither of them are personalities. There's no bad blood, and Molina isn't even known to the casuals. Yeah, I know, and I can't wait until Joshua's mask slips and he turns it into Mike Tyson, and he starts saying to people, "I'll eat your children and I'll fuck your granny in the eye" and stuff like that. That's what we want to hear. If he did that, he'd sell a lot more pay-per-views. We'd never hear the end of him. Definitely. Do you think there's scope for this one? Could this be the first time AJ goes the distance, mate? Or do you think he will get the stoppage in the end? I fully expect him to get the stoppage, but I think it'll go medium rounds. I think it'll go 4 to 8, something like that. I hope he gets rocked in the fight. Honest to God, I hope he gets beaten just to stop the hype train. I really do. But the thing is, I'm a fan of AJ, but it's the hype train, because I really like watching AJ fight. But the hype train is there. And the other thing is maybe AJ did get knocked down in training by Ioanno Coley, and if he is a bit fragile around the chin, Molina can bang. Molina can bang probably the hardest of anybody. I think he probably bangs harder than Dillian Whyte. Possibly. Yeah. Whether he's going to have the technique to land it. I myself would probably be inclined to go Joshua in 4 or 5. I think he will fight behind a jab. I think he'll fight a more disciplined fight than Wilder fought. I think he'll keep Molina at range and open him up a bit, soften him up. And whilst Molina did show a good chin against Wilder at stages, he was stopped by Wilder. And let's also not forget he was stopped by Areola inside a round. So I certainly think AJ will have the power and the size to hurt him and get him out of there. I do think Molina's spirited. I don't think he's going to be afraid of taking his licks. And I think as a result, what Tom said about, AJ potentially getting rocked is a definite possibility. So, you never know. It's one of these fights that I'm really not hyped for, but it could actually develop into an interesting fight in there. In hindsight, I do think Molina is a better fighter than Dominic Breazeale. So you never know. It could be interesting. But yeah, I'm like Tom, going early to mid stoppage for AJ. Jet, what about yourself, mate?
Yeah, I'm not hyped for the fight at all. I'm not interested in the fight. I'm more interested in the undercard, actually. So yeah, I think there's not much that Irish Tom hasn't really covered on the fight. I mean, those of my mates are actually casuals and they're fully into the fight. I mean, the hype train is real, as Irish Tom says. I mean, yeah, I'm just not interested in the fight whatsoever. I don't really have anything more to say on it. I think AJ sort of, mid-ish round stoppage, maybe inside 7, inside 8, something like that. I fully expect him to get the stoppage as well. I think, he's a good puncher, as in he's a big puncher, and obviously he's got all stoppage wins. But I don't think he's a concussive one punch knockout artist. Maybe like a Wilder is. I definitely think he punches hard enough, probably an accumulation of punches, and Molina will get stopped or something like that. So yeah, that's my prediction for the fight.
Okay. Jet picking slightly later stoppage potentially than myself and Tom. Paul, what about yourself for your prediction, mate?
Yeah, I think probably 3 or 4 rounds. I mean, the thing with Molina is he's not great, is he? I mean, look, Adamek is his best win. Adamek was outboxing him in that fight. And Adamek's a blown up cruiserweight. He's 6'1".
I think he could even make light heavy, Paul. Thomas.
Yeah, he's a small guy, and he was getting on. He was. For me, Adamek was shot and still outboxing him. And I think personally, AJ's just got too much speed and timing and power, and I think he'll be wanting to make a bit of a statement in this comparison with Wilder, and with Molina being a previous opponent of Wilder, who might want to try and get him out of there early. I personally think he could even knock him out in the second round, something like that. But I'm going to say 3rd or 4th. I don't see much chance of Molina winning. And one thing I will say, and this is remains to be seen whether this is going to translate fight night, but I watched the public workout with AJ, and he seems to be trying to move his head a bit, which will be a blessing for him going forward if he can carry that into the ring. He was moving quite well. He was moving side to side. He was kind of like doing what we haven't seen him do so far. He might just go in there and still be upright, but I think if he could bring some head movement and whatnot into his game, of course, assuming that chin is okay, he the sky's the limit for him, isn't it? Really. I still have this thing that I think if he doesn't start moving his head, he's going to get beat at some point. I just think he's been moved too fast, and I've been saying this since before the Charles Martin fight. I don't think he should have been. I don't think he should have taken the world title. I know we're talking about history now, but I just think he was moved too quickly. I think the hype train caught up with everybody involved, and he was moved too quickly. And I think the world title shot came way too soon. And I think that bad decision early in his career is going to tell at some point maybe in March or whenever if he does get in with Vlad. If Vlad's not completely shot, Vlad's definitely got the power to knock him out. And if his chin is, suspect, as it's been suggested that it might be, Vlad's definitely going to be somebody that could catch him out. Sadly, I don't think it'll be Eric Molina. Sadly for Eric, but I'm not too hyped for the fight. It's whatever. I think that's largely because what we thought we were going to get was at Vlad. So I think it just pales in comparison to that as a fight. But they've stacked the card up. There's some of the good names on the card and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to the boxing at the weekend, but I'm just not massively hyped for this one, to be honest.
Yeah, I completely agree with that sentiment, Paul. Really, I think that's the way I look at it as well. Okay, so all four of us picking Joshua by stoppage. Paul's going early. Tom and I are going early to mid, and Jet's going mid to late. So we'll see how it plays out. Certainly some durability from Molina, which makes us think it's probably not going to be a 1 or 2 round job. But yeah, Jet, Ortiz versus Allen. Prediction for that fight, mate?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about this a few weeks ago when it was made, wasn't it?
Yes.
And, I've said then, and I will say it now. I think Dave Allen, nice guy. I have a lot of time in terms of watching his stuff. I know he's obviously been on your channel. Seems like a nice guy, but his bravery in this fight is going to be his absolute undoing, and he's going to, I fear that something bad may happen to him, a la Nick Blackwell or something like that. If he's taking loads of shots in this fight, and if he doesn't throw any offensive shots like he did in the Dillian Whyte fight, this is going to be a massacre. And I'm going to go with King Kong within 6 rounds. I mean, I don't want to see this fight. I mean, Dave Allen, bless him, nice guy, but he's English level. He's not even a British level or European level fighter. King Kong is, although he didn't look great in his last fight against Malik Scott, he's too much for Dave Allen at this level and at this moment in time.
Okay. Do you think that Dave Allen's performance against Dillian Whyte gives any hope that he could go the distance?
No. I mean, for me, King Kong's a bigger puncher. He's got better punch variety, better punch output. Everything Dillian Whyte does, King Kong does better. And I just don't think he's going to be, he's going to live with King Kong for the duration of the fight. I'm assuming it'll probably be 10 rounds. It could very well go the distance, but I mean, he's going to take some heavy leather from a big puncher, from a noted puncher. And I don't think, in the Dillian Whyte fight, Dillian Whyte was boxing, moving, not really putting too much meat on his shots up until maybe the last round or two. And, Dave Allen wasn't really throwing anything back. If he doesn't throw anything in this fight, it's going to be criminal, And he's going to go in with this, I've got a marble chin mentality. And, it's just not going to be a good thing going later down the line, especially. I mean, he's a young guy. You want to see him rebuild properly, not just thrown in against Luis Ortiz and then, get beat up. I don't really want to see this fight, to be honest, but, it is what it is, I guess.
Okay, so was that sort of, did you say?
Within 5, within 6.
Within 5 or 6 for Ortiz. Okay. Paul, Ortiz v. Allen, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I want to qualify what I'm about to say with, by saying I like Dave Allen. As a bloke, he seems like a really nice guy. I think he's got fucking huge cojones for getting in there. Yeah, that's take nothing away from Dave Allen. I think as a piece of matchmaking, and I don't know whether you'd blame his manager or Eddie Hearn or whoever for this. I think it's absolutely awful, borderline, fucking criminal. I mean, if you look at this, he's like Eric Molina's like, Dave Allen is ranked around 82nd, 84th I think in the on BoxRec, I don't agree with this, but they've got Luis Ortiz at 1 at the minute. For some reason, they've how he's made it to number 1. I'm not right too sure, but he's certainly. I think most people would agree that he is probably top 5 heavyweights in the world at the minute. I think it's just absolutely awful. I think it's absolutely awful. And I was looking at like a kind of like equivalent fight in another division. It's like if Manny Pacquiao now announced, and I looked at who would be Timo Schwarzkopf. Anybody know who Timo Schwarzkopf is?
Mate.
So if Manny Pacquiao,
he was the US general who invaded Iraq.
It sounds like a bottle of shampoo, doesn't it? So like if Manny Pacquiao all of a sudden announced my next date is going to be against Timo Schwarzkopf, we'd all be going, what the fuck? Everybody had absolutely shit on the fight. It's only because we know, because Dave Allen's English, we know him a little bit. I don't know, I've just been seeing a few things, I won't mention any names, videos lately of people talking about how Dave Allen could do it, and if he does this, if he does that. Look, come on. Yeah, he's shown he's got a decent chin. Against, nobody's. I mean, like, Dillian Whyte, he's shown he's got a good chin against Dillian Whyte. I mean, I just think it's ridiculous. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I honestly echo what Jet said. I really fear that something bad could happen to Dave Allen, because the combination of being brave and not having the skill set to keep a puncher like Luis Ortiz, with the amateur background Luis Ortiz has got, the punch selection, the punch variety he's got, the technique he's got, I just think it's an absolute recipe for disaster. I mean, the fight's going to go ahead, but either way, I think probably Ortiz in 3. I'd say
Ortiz in 3. Okay.
I think Ortiz is at his most deadly in the first few rounds, and I just don't think Dave Allen's going to know what's hit him. I don't think he's going to have been in with anybody that can find a home for his work as well as Ortiz can when he's up close. People are reading a bit much into the Malik Scott fight, personally, I think. Malik Scott just danced around for the whole fight, was unbelievably awkward, was unbelievably negative in that fight. And yeah, I mean, Ortiz is nearly 40, so yeah, of course he didn't do too well in catching up with him. Yeah, he didn't look as good as I've seen him look before, but this is going to be a very different fight, and I think Dave Allen will try and come forward, and I think it'll just be absolute disaster. Absolute disaster.
I agree with a lot of what you said, Paul. I think Ortiz is more deadly early on. I also think Allen has very few tools to beat Ortiz, and I think Ortiz will be able to unload against Allen a lot easier than he did against Malik Scott. So stylistically, I feel it's an easier fight. The only reason I'm unsure about whether Allen will go the distance or not is because Allen is a very, very durable fighter, and it's not just a Dillian Whyte fight that tells me that. It's all the sparring he's done with Vladimir, with Joshua, etc. Now, you know, if you put a gun to my head and said I had to pick one, I probably would pick Ortiz to stop him, because I think Ortiz can overwhelm you. You know, but it is a tight one. So I think one thing that's coming through consistently is that none of us are giving Dave Allen any chance really whatsoever of upsetting the odds here. You know, it seems to be a one-sided fight, even if there's some debate as to how many rounds Allen will actually go. Tom,
I mean,
go ahead, Paul.
If he was to beat him, he announces himself on the world stage on Saturday night, and he then just becomes part of the conversation in every. He becomes part of every heavyweight conversation, obviously, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, he'll get a world title fight if he beats Ortiz.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, and he'd deserve it as well.
Yeah, he would. He did. I don't know if you saw the video I did earlier. I think you might have done, Paul, but it did bother me a bit when Dave Allen said he was offered more money to fight Concean. You know, I appreciate this is a huge opportunity if he upsets the apple cart, but if he got offered more money to fight Concean, you know, that's a fight I might pick Allen to actually win. It seems bizarre to go with Ortiz for less money.
It really does, and I just can't think what his people and the people around him and really himself. I mean, yeah, like I say, he's got some balls on him for it, but it just does seem like a very poor way to go, unless that Twitter thing where people I think a lot of the people that voted in that Twitter thing thought it was a joke, and he came out on top after that Scott fight. And I don't know if that's gone to his head or something. I don't know. I can't for the life of me fathom why he would take a fight like that over a relatively safe fight in a very young and sort of like green Conchean, you know. So
Yeah,
Well, lads,
I'll try and
tell
get
you
Dave
why.
back on the channel. I'll try and get Dave back on the channel, and I'll ask him that very, very directly if I can. He's usually very given with his time, so I'm sure he'll come back on. But yeah, for me, that's a mistake. But Tom, sorry, you were trying to get in there, mate. So over to you.
Yeah, I'll tell you why he wouldn't fight Conchean is because he get bet, and Conchean is a 3-fight novice. That's why Conchean would school him. No, absolutely no hassle. And put it this way, lads: if Manny Pacquiao was to fight that bottle of Schwarzkopf shampoo, the shampoo would have more chance of beating Pacquiao than Allen has of beating Ortiz.
But why would you not take the fight with Sheehan, mate? Because
I'm thinking he's probably thinking that he'll get beat by Sheehan. Sheehan's a mover, high punch, high output. Dave Allen doesn't throw punches. He takes punches all night long. If he loses the Conch,
better chance of beating Ortiz.
no. But I think if he's going to get beat by, he might as well get beat by Ortiz as get beat by Sheehan.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's like a more credible. It's a more credible loss, you're saying.
Exactly, yeah. It's like Kell Brook. He might as well get beat by Golovkin than by Errol Spence. I think that's the logic of it. But I think it's
at the time as well on Kell Brook, didn't we? A few of us said that because if you remember, we were talking about the decision not to take the Khan fight, and a few of us were saying, well, you know, he can take the Triple G fight and lose, but still have the Khan fight because like everyone's expecting him to lose anyway. And this is probably the same with Dave Allen. Everyone's expecting him to lose.
Yeah. Tom, I presume you're going Ortiz. Points or KO, mate?
I think it'll be a KO. I just think there'll be a point in there where he's not like I think Dave will be on the floor, but I think he'll be overwhelmed and the ref will just call it off. And I think Eddie Hearn and all these people will have told the ref, and we don't want him getting hurt because they've got quite a big backlash, I think, for making this fight. So they're kind of very wary, and the board are and everything. So there'll be pressure on him to cut this short, I reckon.
That's a good point, Tom. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Cracking fight on the undercard that's flown under the radar, Tom. Burton versus Bullone. Is that one that you're hyped for?
I think it's probably the best fight. Well, no, Calify is the best fight on it. It's probably the second best fight on it. But I'm not that hyped. To be honest with you, I've watched Frank Buglione fight so many times, and I've never really enjoyed any of his fights. You know, Frank is one of those guys who looks like he's got what it takes, but, you know, he just gets hit, and he's not got great defense. And I think your man, Jose Burton, is a lot younger. What age is Burton? Like 26 or something?
I guess so, mate, yeah.
And Buglione must be 32 at this stage, I'd say, is he?
Let me box track it just quickly. I don't know if Buglione's that old. Frank Buglione is 27. Hosea Burton's older, mate. Burton's 28. Buglione's 27.
Wow, that shows you how little I know. But Burton is a lot taller. I saw them standing side by side. I think he looked like he was like 4 inches taller or something crazy. Maybe they were on different steps or something, but it did look like Burton is much taller. You only get 3 to 10 on Burton in this, so to be honest with you, I don't think there's value there. The value is maybe on the other side, but because who is Burton beaten? Only your man that looks like George Groves with more hair. What's his name? Shinkwin.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the only fight I've seen him. Like that's probably his best win, you know. And Shinkwin is is probably a sparring partner for the good guys. That's probably his level, you know, English level or something like that. So who knows? Who knows? You know, it's a decent fight. There are 2 decent fights on that card. 3 decent fights, sorry. And you got Derek. Well, no, 3 fairly equal fights. Derek and Dillian is going to be a terrible fight, but it's fairly equal. So, I don't have too much more to say about it. Burton is wild. Jose Burton is really quite wild and gangly, but I think he's got fighting spirit, and I think that's enough to. I think if you've got fighting spirit, it's enough to win against Frank Buglione, to be honest.
Do you know what? I view the fight quite differently to yourself. I think Burton will win by a clinical points decision. I think Buglione's actually quite wild. I think Buglione's got no defence, no head movement. I think he's quite inaccurate. I think Burton is the boxer in there. I think Burton's the jabber. I think Burton's the technician. I think I expect Burton to pick him apart a bit, to be honest with you.
Oh, but Burton is very wild, man. Look at that Shinkwin fight. He's got these big long arms swinging all over the place. Like he's not graceful. Like if you look at, I know what you're saying. Frank doesn't have a great defense, but if you look at how he stands as a boxer and how he moves, it's more in line what you would imagine a good boxer would do. Not to say that Frank is that good, but Burton is kind of gangly and awkward and everything. But I think he's quite tough. But I could be completely wrong. Cannot believe Frank Buglione is 27.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That I cannot believe.
Yeah. Okay. Burton Buglione, mate.
Yeah. Burton for me wins the fight pretty easy. I'm with you on that one. I mean, Frank Buglione, I was watching his fight against Lee Markham, was it? When he drew with him. And Jose Burton actually made a very good point, to be honest. He goes, if Lee Markham wasn't the B side, and if he was a bit more of a ticket seller, he probably would have got the decision against Frank Buglione, which is probably spot on. Frank Buglione, he's struggling against the English middleweight champion, super middleweight. So it kind of puts it into perspective. His next fight, he goes into a world title fight and gets absolutely battered by Fedor Chudinov. And obviously then he goes, well, I'm weight drained, so I'll move up to light heavyweight. So, I mean, it doesn't make any sense with Frank Buglione. He's too easy to hit. And, he's got no defense. He's with one of the worst trainers I've ever seen in Pascal Collins.
He's with Don Charles these days, mate.
Oh, my God. He's moved again. No wonder Jose
Burton
Burton
was Charles for a little while now.
No wonder Jose Burton was tearing into him because he said he's changed 3 trainers now or something like that. So, I mean, it's not going to make any difference. You can't make up for a leaky defense. And, with him, I don't think you could teach an old dog new tricks. And Jose Burton wins the fight pretty easily for me.
Okay. So we're 3-0 up on Jose Burton. Paul, what about yourself, mate?
Yeah, I'd love to be able to be the odd man out again and pick Buglione, but I can't. I do think they're both wild. I think you and Irish Tom are probably both right. I think they both be pretty wild in the way they throw their punches, but I do think Burton's got slightly more in the way of skill set. He has got a decent jab. Yeah, I mean, not much more to say on it than that. It's a competitive fight, but pick Burton on points. Yeah.
Burton points. Okay, so we're all united there. Paul, your fight Conception.
Yeah, it's a decent fight. I think Conception might. I think Conception might win that. He's a decent fighter. Haven't seen that much of your fight. Haven't seen that. I've got to be completely honest. I haven't seen that much of him. and so probably one of you guys are probably better placed to call this one. But yeah, just based on what I have seen, I think I'm going to pick Conception to win. I just think he looks a bit more accurate and a bit more refined skills and stuff.
Okay, fair enough. Tommy, you're betting on Conception to win.
I have him on points at 11-2.
So
And,
is that will actually happen, or just a value play?
Well, it is an English card, so he'll have to win 12 rounds and hope he can get a split decision. So it's probably one that I'm going to lay off midway, because I think, he's a two-weight world champion, isn't he, Conception?
Yeah.
When we see when your man came over to fight, was it Conception that fought McDonald as well? What was his name?
You mean Casemiro for Edwards?
No, McDonald.
Solis.
Solis.
Yeah.
He was 2-weight as well, wasn't he?
I believe so, mate. Yeah.
No, he was only he was only unified champ at Superfly. I think he was only unified champ.
Okay, but to win a couple of titles, you got to be good. And the odds are stacked 4-7 is the last time I saw on Calify, and that's just that stupid money that had Edwards nearly a favourite against Casemiro. I think Edwards was favourite against Casemiro. That's just because people think they're backing their own guy. Look, I think your man is coming as a title. I think that he'll probably be the better fighter, but he mightn't get the decision. But I think a very good play is to back him now early and then just wait till it's like halfway through the fight and it'll be down to 2-1 or something, and then you can just lay off your bet and it's free money.
Interesting. Okay. Jet, obviously you're our lower weight classes correspondent. Your Phi, Conception, and also if you've seen much of Scott Quigg's opponent, perhaps.
Yeah, we'll go with Quigg first. I mean, Cayetano, he fought Leo Santa Cruz, I think, on an undercard, and he lost pretty much every round. So he's got a sort of opponent in Leo Santa Cruz, but shouldn't pose too much of a problem to Scott Quigg, assuming Scott Quigg comes in fit and healthy into the ring. And obviously, we have to wait and see how his jaw is. So Scott Quigg wins in that fight for me pretty handily, probably by late stoppage. I'd say maybe late stoppage. He's moving up to featherweight, obviously. So looking in a new weight class might have a, might be a bit fresher later on in the rounds or something like that. Was it? I forgot now. No, Conception versus Year 5. Probably the best fight on the card, to be fair. Probably the closest fight, I think, as well. For me, it's a tough one. I mean, Conception is obviously a two-way world champion. One, version of the world title at flyweight. Obviously now at Superfly. Probably beat the weakest champion at Superfly in Kohei Kono. Kono obviously, fought over in the States quite a while ago, actually, against one of the Kameda brothers. He's decent. Conception, he's not spectacular. I've actually, said in one of that when the fight was announced, I'll probably pick in Yafai. But it's a tough one because Yafai really hasn't really fought anyone. So maybe you're just going off a bit of, what the eye test. I guess what you see is what you get on Cal. But he's definitely got some serious skills, and I think he can win this fight. But Conception is a live dog, and I think the betting odds that Irish Tom said are absolutely ludicrous. I mean, to have Cal Yafai as a favourite is a joke. Conception's got to be a betting front runner in this fight, due to just his experience. He's a big, he's a big puncher as well, Conception. But I think he's a bit smaller. I probably think he's a natural flyweight. He's not a super flyweight, so to speak. And I think Cal's quite big at the weight, so maybe that might tell on fight night. So yeah, I guess we'll wait and see, but it's a very, very good fight. I'm going to pick Cal Yafai to win that fight. Probably by late stoppage or points, one of the two.
Didn't he fight Conception? Didn't he? Was that him, Jet, that fought Quadras?
Yeah, he pushed him all the way.
Yeah, I think it was a split decision or something.
Yeah, but I think I don't think Quadras looked his best in that fight. You know, Concepcion's decent. I mean, he's not a bad fighter at all, but I just think, you know, Calify might have, you know, it's hard to say because, you know, no one's really seen him, and whenever he's fought, he's kind of just fought journeyman or kind of low rate opposition. So we're not learning too much, but kind of his amateur career when he was coming up, he looked really, really good. He was beating some decent opposition. So, you know, hopefully he gets the win, maybe another world champion for Britain. But, you know, it's a tight fight. To have, as I said, to have your fight as a betting front runner is ludicrous.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move on. Jet, we'll stick with you actually. Heavyweights. Parker versus Andy Ruiz. Remarkable. We're 90 minutes in. This is actually for the heavyweight world title, or certainly the WBO version of it. Flown a bit under the radar over on these shores. Jet, good fight though.
Yeah, I mean, pretty decent fight to be fair. I mean, you know, two prospects battling out for a world title. I think it's probably flown under the radar because obviously Joseph Parker was supposed to come over to the UK and fight. You know, obviously they said David Price was there, Andy Joshua was there. You know, so obviously he hasn't really got much of a mention in the UK, and obviously he's fighting over in I think it's Auckland, if I'm correct, or I'm not sure, but I think he's fighting over in New Zealand then for the WBO version. And yeah, I mean, Andrew Ruiz has obviously got himself into pretty decent shape, pretty decent nick, but he's lost a lot of weight in kind of a short space of time. So there might be detrimental going later on in the fight maybe. But, you know, for me, I just can't see a way Ruiz wins this fight. He has fast hands, but Joseph Parker, in kind of every sort of avenue, you know, punch variety, punch output, I think he's just as good as Ruiz, if not better. And I can't see a way that even if Ruiz wins 12 rounds, I don't think he's going to get the decision out in New Zealand. So, yeah, I'm going to pick Parker. I'm probably going to pick Parker by points in this fight.
Okay, fair enough. Paul, Parker Ruiz, mate.
I mean, I think the only sort of like element that kind of makes it a little bit difficult is the weight loss for Ruiz, is how that is going to affect him, whether it'll affect him. There's two schools of thought, isn't there? He needed to lose the weight, which he, of course, did need to lose the weight. He was a bit chubby round the waist, to say the least, wasn't he, before? And so that's one school of thought, that he just needed to lose the weight and he'll be even better, which I suppose is a possibility. And I think what's more likely is he's not going to be used to fighting at that such a, you know, reduced weight. I mean, I think that's the only sort of like element that could swing it. If it's based on the Parker I've been watching for a few years now, and the Ruiz I've been watching for a few years, I think Parker wins quite easily. I don't really see what people are on about when it comes to Ruiz. Like Dwyer, who definitely, you know, got a lot of respect for Dwyer. He makes me laugh as well. But God, he picks some weird winners. I think Parker's got way faster hands than Ruiz. I think Ruiz is very wild in his shots. Even the knockout wins he's had, some of them have been the punches have just been, God, they've been Hail Marys. Like you know, you could fucking roll a cigarette while you're waiting for some of them big swings to land. It's just I think Parker's just, I mean, like Jet said, he's got much better jab. I think he's got faster hands. I think he's got more power than Ruiz. I think he's got better footwork than Ruiz. It's in New Zealand, as has been said already. So it's a good fight, but I don't think it's the 50-50 fight that people are making out. I think I make Parker a heavy favourite, for me anyway. I think Parker wins it I think he'll knock him out. I don't think it'll be on points. I think he'll knock him out. I think he'll want to make a statement. And who is Ruiz for anyway? I mean, like, have we ever seen Ruiz take a really big shot?
He's supposed to have a very good chin from sparring rumours, and he's been fairly. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, sparring obviously is nothing. I mean, he took some fairly big punches from Tor Hamer, but obviously Tor Hamer's a performer at a certain level. Other than that, the other big names he's been at, well, I say big names, Serhii Lipovets, like the ghost of Ray Austin. He hasn't. To be honest,
Franklin Lawrence, was it as well?
Lawrence, yeah. Andy Ruiz, BoxRec have him at 21. I actually think that's a tad generous. I'd have him low 20s, high 30s, that sort of rating. I've always found it quite bizarre how highly he's rated with the governing bodies. I know he carries a little bit of power and he carries some hand speed, but I've never seen Andy Ruiz as a real threat to the heavyweight division. I've just viewed him as a younger Chris Arreola, to be honest. I'm not getting the hype myself here, definitely.
No, I don't really understand it. I mean, Dwyer's picking him. I know that. I don't see it.
I don't know if you guys heard that Zumbano Love, who fought Joshua and he got KO'd in 2.
Yeah.
I think he sparred with one of the opponent of one of these guys, and he fought at Ruiz, I think it was, and he said Ruiz is a bigger puncher, so make of that what you will.
Yeah, well, Ruiz, mate, he obviously has power at a certain level, but 10 people have gone the distance with him, and Zumbano Love went the distance with him, and Zumbano Love got smashed to pieces by Anthony Joshua, for example, didn't he?
Yeah, I just thought it was a bit funny when he said that. So
yeah, I suppose though, if you do manage to land one of those big swinging loops that go halfway around the world before they get to you, it's picked up quite a bit of momentum by the time it reaches your chin. If it manages to reach your chin.
Yeah, especially when you weigh 700 pounds or whatever it is that Ruiz weighs these. But yeah.
I mean, of course, the weight loss, we don't know what. I mean, he could come in and just be amazing, but
I think the weight loss is a negative, mate.
Yeah, I think it's a negative too.
I'm more likely to. I'm more inclined to think that way as well.
It was so drastic, wasn't it? He looked like a different man in the picture.
He looked like he was ill.
Yeah, and like if you're going to do that, obviously, you need to lose that weight. And I've seen a couple of people, I won't mention names, making videos saying, he just needed to lose that weight anyway, and he'll be fine and whatnot. Yeah, he needed to lose that weight, but you'd want to see him lose it a bit more gradually. You'd want to see him maybe lose a bit, have a fight, a stay busy fight, lose a bit more, and work your way up to a world title shot. Not just lose it all like that. And I think that's probably going to prove a bit detrimental to him, to be honest.
Good comment from Rob Plant in the chat saying that, he's really impressed by Ruiz's new attitude and how Ruiz has lost all the weight and, taken the dieting very seriously. Rob's insistent that he's lost a lot of weight. But yeah, I mean, basically, there's something called being fat on the inside. And whether Andy Ruiz turns up at a 6-pack at the weigh-in, which I highly doubt, those years of being so overweight and so blown up and that sort of thing are gonna come back to haunt him, I think. I agree, Paul. Basically, Irish, your take on this one?
I'm just looking forward to it as a fight. I think it'll be a decent fight. I agree. Your man Ruiz has got fast hands, a shite resume, and a big belly, but we'll see how it goes. Parker, I think Parker will win fairly easy. I don't think he'll stop him, to be honest. It's a possibility. I just think it'll be points Parker. But I don't think there's too much value in it. Like, what's Parker to win on points? Like 1-2 or something like that?
It must be. He's 1-3 to win. So, yeah, it must be about 1-2.
Yeah, so I don't think there's much value in it as from betting point of view. But do you know what? It's kind of cool having these fights early in the morning over here in the UK so that you can
Get the day started.
just go watch a fight at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's fucking
Will it
brilliant.
be on our Saturday morning, guys?
Yeah.
Saturday, yeah, it's on Saturday morning, yeah.
And will it be on Box Nation, will it, or Sky?
I think it's on Sky.
I think
I'm
it's
not
on-
sure.
Yeah.
Can someone in the chat let us know if it's on Box Nation
I'll
or
have a look while I'm
What time will it be on? Does anybody know the time?
9
10,
a.m.,
11
10 a.m.?
o'clock, something like that. 10 a.m., 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's on Box Nation apparently. Yeah,
Oh,
cheers,
really?
guys. Everyone's saying Box Nation. Thank you. Yeah. So that's yes, good. You're right though, Tom. I'll be nursing a Friday night hangover. And that'll set
Usual
me.
BG hits the town, guys.
Lads, you can get 5-2 on Parker on points.
Oh, yeah.
5-2.
What?
Fuck me.
Fuck
Yeah.
hell.
That makes no fucking sense at all.
You mean 2-5?
No, 5-2.
No way.
No.
I'm looking at it. You can actually get 27-10.
No fun.
I'm looking at it right here across the board. 5-2.
Fucking hell.
Jesus Christ.
I'm
Fucking
double
hell.
checking this. Not because I don't believe you, Tom, but to be frank, I don't believe you.
Yeah, it is on box.
No,
We are wrong.
because I don't believe it, though. It's because you're a fucking liar.
Yeah. There we go.
Where's that, Tom? You found that? Irish.
Oh my God.
Checker. Odds checker across the board.
BG is flabbergasted.
Cha-ching.
That is a huge price.
I may
did
have
you run?
on that myself.
I mean,
I don't
I personally would be inclined to go Parker stoppage. I actually, think that is the most likely. But 5-2 feels. I mean, I would say the decision should be more like 7-4, 13-8.
Like 5-2. Say 5-2 means that you have about a 28% chance, right, of winning on points, and 1-4 means you have an 80% chance of winning, right? So they're saying that 62% or 50. What one is it? They're saying 52% chances knockout, and only 28 by points. That seems kind of ridiculous to me.
That's
Yeah.
crazy, old son.
Yeah, especially when you
think-
consider
I mean-
guys have gone the distance with Parker. I mean, Parker's got power, but he's not like, he's not got George Foreman power.
No, he's more of a speed puncher. But he's not
Yeah.
even like David Hay, who's got speed and power. He's just speed more than anything.
No, he's got power as well. He's got quite a bit of power. But
He didn't triple
I
tack
think
him too much, you know?
Will stop him. I think he will stop him, but that's too good of a price to fucking pass up. That is 5-2.
Rob Plant said it's actually 27.3% chance. You're right, Rob. Sorry about that.
Oh, yeah, we do need to clarify that because I think you said 28. So,
Well, it should be 20. It should be 28.54.
I think it's 27.319, mate, from what I heard.
I'm actually serious though. 2 divided by 7 is 28.57. There you go, lads. 28.57.
Really? Okay. Let's. So, did anyone pick Ruiz or did we all pick Parker there?
I think we all picked Parker.
I think we all picked Parker. Yeah. There's a few other fights this weekend. One of them involves pound-for-pound superstar Terence Crawford, who's fighting John Molina Jr., who's coming off a big win over Provodnikov. Tom, let's stick with you, mate. One-sided fight list?
No, I expect what do you call him? What's his name? Who's he fighting? Molina to box him off the back foot and a complete shutout. It's all about levels.
Okay.
You sure you want that going on the record?
I'm looking forward to next week when I could come back, tell you boys the story of how it went.
Well, there, Tom's pick now.
Pick right there, boys.
Move on, BG. That's Tom's pick there now. Move on.
Okay. It'd be absolute disaster if Molina does cause the upset, wouldn't it? And yeah. Paul, Crawford Molina, mate. I know you don't like Terence Crawford. I know you famously picked against him in the Victor Pastor fight.
No, it's not that I don't like him. I actually do like Terence Crawford. I just I didn't think he'd deal with Postol's size and his ranginess too well. But I was wrong. It is possible. You know, it doesn't often happen, but it does happen sometimes. Yeah, no. This is a shutout for Crawford. I mean, Bud's gonna win this one quite easily. I think he'll probably stop Molina, to be honest.
Okay. Jet, what about yourself, mate?
Yeah, I'm with Paul on that one. I think he's going to stop John Molina Jr.
I agree. So we're obviously Tom going out on a limb, but the rest of us all in line. A few other fights this weekend. Jet, the other two we haven't mentioned: J-Rock versus Charlo, Quella versus Mares. You got anything to throw into the mix on either of them two matchups, mate?
Yeah, they're pretty decent fights actually. Really good fights. The J-Rock Charlo fight is a fantastic fight for the 154 division actually. Also, after the Demetrius Andre got reordered with Jack Jose for the regular WBA title. So there's some good fights going on at 154. I think Charlo will probably win that fight. J-Rock is very, very good fighter, but I think this is probably coming a bit early in his career. I think also he's a bit flat-footed. So, Charlo is massive also at 154. And I think he'll win. It'll be a close decision, but I think he'll win the fight. Quayle versus Mares. Depends what Mares turns up, actually. You know, Mares of old, if he's got anything left in the tank, you know, he could win this fight. But Quayle is probably a natural 130, 135 pounder. And he's coming back down to featherweight, obviously, and he holds the regular WBA title. So he could be a bit too much for Mares. I always thought Mares was a bit small for featherweight as well. So, yeah, I mean, if you go off maybe the Santa Cruz fight, Santa Cruz is quite big for 126 as well. I think, you know, he'll probably struggle a bit, and I think I'll probably go with Quayle in that fight, to be honest.
Okay. I know, Tom, you're going Quayle, aren't you?
Yeah, Quayle, that's the best bet of the weekend, I think. That's a lock, that fight. You know, Quayle is big. He can punch. He's aggressive. Mares is a bantamweight fighting at featherweight. Yeah. He's really small, and he's shot. You know, he's shot. He's got no power, and he's having eye problems. So, like, you're getting 4-6 on Cuellar there. Like, he can't lose by knockout. He can only lose by on points. And I just think, you know, that he's not going to be able to stand up to it. I think you're getting 4-6 on Cuellar there. The only reason that is so... the price is so good is because people don't really know Cuellar, but they know who Mares is. I think that's an easy bet.
Okay. And what about J-Rock versus Charlo, mate? That was one you put down earlier.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to see it because, to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever even seen J-Rock. Only all I've heard is bullshit being spoke about him by loads of people like us. So, I don't know. I haven't seen him. Maybe I've seen one or two highlights or something, but I haven't seen him. And the Charlos, I don't know which one is fighting. I don't know which one is which.
It's the big punching
one. Yeah, it's the good one. The other one.
Yeah, but the other people called the other fella the good one, so I don't know which one is which.
The other one is
so like.
But he was getting outboxed by who was it? John Jackson. He's not that good. Yeah, he's not that good for me. But this is the better one.
I thought he was the big hitting one.
No, he's the light punching one. He's the boxer one, and this one's the big punching one. Is facing J-Rock because it's the IBF one.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the fight. That's the way I am with that one. I think it could be the best fight of the whole weekend. But I don't know either of them, so I haven't a clue.
Okay, let's go over to Paul. Paul, those two fights, mate, I haven't brought you in on those yet, so if you've got anything to add?
Yeah, I agree on. I agree on Cuellar, he's going to be way bigger, and I do think Mara's a shot. So I can't really add too much more on Cuellar. But on the J Rock Charlo fight, I mean, it's a great fight. So much fucking boxing on the weekend. It's fucking brilliant. Like, really disagree with Jet though on J Rock being flat-footed. I think if anything, Charlo's a bit flat-footed. I think J Rock's got much better movement. I think he's got much better overall boxing skills. I think that the difference might be the size and it might be the power. Jamal Charlo's a big guy at 154. He's one of the biggest 154 pounders there is at the minute, I think, and he has got awesome power. I think if it's not too early for J Rock, I think he's the better fighter. But it may be too early for him. I'm not sure. I'm going to pick J Rock. I think overall he's the better fighter. It just depends on whether he can stay away from that right hand of Charlo's. But I'm going to pick J Rock on points.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Okay. So the panel's slightly split there. I actually sit with Tom in that I haven't actually seen J Rock fight before, which I'm a bit embarrassed to admit. But he's one of these names I've heard a lot, especially on the Boxing Voice side. He's one of these names I hear coming up and up again. So he's very highly rated, but I look forward to checking him out. And it's amazing what Paul said as well. You get these, I mean, last week there's there were some fights. I guess you had Billy Joe Saunders and Lebedev, but I guess on the scale it's a quieter week. And then you get a week like this where it all happens at once. And, you know, this was also the date that Golovkin-Jacobs was billed for, that Klitschko was billed for, that David Hay was initially billed for. So it is funny. You do seem to get these dates in boxing where, you know, like buses, a lot of dates come up at once. So there you go. But it's certainly a weekend to look forward to if you're a heavyweight boxing fan. Joshua, Ortiz, Whyte, Chisora, Parker, Ruiz, you know, some real big fights coming up in that division, certainly. So interesting stuff. We've covered what we needed to cover tonight. We've made fairly good time. We've got it all done within the 2 hours, which I suspected we may not do tonight, but we have done. So let me go around to the panel and see if there's anything else the guys want to throw in before we wrap it up and call it a night. Yeah, let's go over to yourself first, mate. If you've got anything extra.
No, nothing from my side, mate.
Cool. Paul, we always save Tom to last because he always has something. So we'll come to you next.
No. Any Agogo updates? Anybody got anything on Mr. Agogo?
You know what? I haven't. Let me just run a very quick Google search now. See if there's any breaking news. No, doesn't seem to be. Unless Tom, you've got any huge Agogo updates for the squad.
No, he still has that very sexy tweet of himself with a patch on his eye on his Twitter account from last week. So, you know, he's still recovering and looking very hot and sexy. That's all I've got to say about it.
Okay. You got anything else to throw into the mix, Tom, before we wrap it up for the week?
We gotta say something about how much of a chicken shit Eddie Hearn was in the middle of that table throwing today versus Adam Smith.
Oh, did you see? I saw the pictures that you tweeted, that you quote tweeted, Tom. They were hilarious. He was dabbing and stuff. Hilarious.
Oh yeah, Eddie Hearn is great. Funny man. He had the table up, his arms up like he was going disco dancing. And Adam Smith, it was all kicking off in the middle of it, like and Eddie Hearn basically did a runner when Derek Chisora was like giving out to him. And Adam Smith is about 4'7", stood there like a geography teacher. And, you know, he just calmly talked to Derek and calmed the situation down. Who would have thought like Adam Smith is going to do that and not fucking run for the hills?
I know he did. Eddie just went, me?
Yeah, me? What did I do? And then turned around and like legged it off.
I know. And then Adam Smith was like, just calm down, Derek. Just save it for the weekend.
Yeah.
Like that,
you should
Just one quick word I should throw in as well is that Katie Taylor and Conor Benn both on the undercard this week. So I know neither of them will be in competitive fights, but nevertheless, two of the biggest name prospects in the sport right now. So they're both on the bill as well.
What are you talking to? Is that? Are you trolling?
No, when I say biggest name, I mean like, celebrity name.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, what I mean is how many other four-round fighters fighting a 1-4 opponent would get on a bill like this, but Conor Benn has done. That's kind of what I mean by celebrity. But Conor Benn, I'm not saying he's going to be a world champion, but he's a fighter we'll all sit down and watch, isn't he?
What other promoter in the world would put a fella on near the top of the bill who's having his debut? Bar Amir Khan and Lomachenko, who's actually fighting decent people.
Yeah, if you're Luis Ortiz, you've got to be a bit pissed off. You're like 8th on the bill or something like, and you've got...
Yeah, having Katie Taylor fighting some fat broad from Ballygo Backwards. What's that all about?
Ballygo Backwards. Oh, shit.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so that's where we are. This time next week, we will be meeting to discuss Dave Allen versus Eric Molina for the World Championship. It could well be the case that would be the actual fight. And the winner to unify against Andy Ruiz.
I love how there's always one point every week where Irish Tom says something a bit un-PC and everyone just goes...
Everyone just goes.
He's like that awkward uncle who has one too many drinks over Christmas.
And then Tom goes, "Okay,
okay," and
yeah,
we'll call
or
it
absolutely, or something.
Yeah, with that we'll end.
With that we'll call it a night. Yeah, but yeah, guys, enjoyed it tonight. Covered a lot of ground. Got a lot of predictions in. Done a lot of previews. Probably couldn't go into some of the fights in as bigger detail as previously because there were so many fights to cover. But hopefully we've given you a bit of an indication. So I am going to be covering the fights this weekend. I'll be doing videos Saturday and Sunday and stuff. So make sure you check those out. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. You can subscribe to my channel, which is, of course, Boxing Gossip. And subscribe to Jet's channel as well, which is Boxing Discussions. If you could take the time to hit the thumbs up button on this video, that would be much appreciated. And we always do this podcast every Wednesday night at 8:30 in the evening. So please, if you're watching this on record, please feel free to join us live next week perhaps. But yeah, thanks very much indeed for spending your Wednesday evenings with us. Thanks very much to the panel, to Tom, to Paul, to Jet for being ever present on the show. It makes it far, far better listening. So, yeah, have a good evening, everyone, and we look forward to speaking to you all soon.
Take care.
Cheers.